All right, thank you everyone for joining. This is the Ward 8 Neighborhood Planning Assembly on February 22nd, 2024. I guess we'll accept the motions to adopt the agenda. And I think you might be only Ward 8 resident to make a motion. I will second. Vote. Set the agenda. Wonderful. We have an agenda. Let's just do quick introductions. Room. Let's start at that end of the table over there. Michael Long, Kate the Flatbread. Apologies for the lack of flatbread.
Karen Long, I'm Ward 1.
Gary Golden, I'm the East District School Commissioner and resident.
Thank you. Ryan Nick, resident of Ward 8 and the steering committee member.
Eric Broderick, Ward 8 president and candidate for Ward 8 Search Council.
Thank you. Comment?
Thank you.
Yep. Checking. Next item, also a couple notes on the agenda. Town meeting day is March 5th, a couple weeks away here. You should all have your ballots by now, so please fill them out and vote. If you need your presidential primary ballot, you can request it or go to City Hall. And then that brings us to the forum. If anyone would like to speak during the forum, please right now or later, it's up to you. If you'd like to make
but I really want to learn about how the NPAs function in Burlington. I've been a Burlington Ward 8 resident for 3 years, and yeah, so really I just came to learn about how the NPAs function, and especially as a city councilor, hopefully what I can do to strengthen the Burlington, especially in Ward 8. I hope that with my candidacy and Ward 8 residents, students that come in, so we have more of a say in policy.
I would say that I have gone to 2 of the debates at the UVM, and I'm really impressed with, especially the first one was a full audience. Last night's was not quite as full, but I think that's great that people came and sat there, and that's good. That's really good. There's energy on the campus, which is really important.
Yeah.
I think, and I think that it is richer for our community to have the campus here. I mean, it really brings a lot of events and that's it. So yeah, good luck with your candidacy.
Forum going once or twice.
I mean, I really came to ask questions about neighborhood code, but Tim's not here and Hannah's not coming either.
She is at a payroll debate.
Yeah, we might try to catch that too, but I think that starts at 7.
It's endeavor to get to this next section, so you can make that. Moving on to the second item on our agenda. Great.
We're just going to skip over the 4th slide. We'll have fixed costs and obligations on it. So a little prelude to the mess that is doing school budgets. And that was in the news today with the Vermont Digger coverage on the Senate, right, putting their vote on the amended bill. So, and this is a repeat of these guys today in my presentations, but it's how Vermont funds its schools is really actually not unusual as far as other states. As far as the big ones, the fixed costs and the local costs are what we grapple with as administration, the school, and then the board members. And what's the balancing act is the in the past, all the school, budgets and, tax rate were decided by what local resources you had available. So if you were in Vernon, Vermont, back in the nineties and early 2000s, you had Vermont Yankee School. They had a zero tax rate across, I believe, across the board. IBM and their heyday was Junction, very, very low school taxes. And that was how it was. The state tried to offset that some with the foundation rate, but it was messy. It never worked until a family in Whitingham, Vermont, the Brighams, took the state to court and said, this isn't fair. And they made it a civil rights issue based on Brown versus Board of Education, landmark decision of the 1950s. And they won, went to the state Supreme Court, and they decided on the Brigham's part and left it to the legislature to decide how to do it. And that's been the mess since then, because this latest bill, I've lost track of the numbers, is one of many attempts to bring funding into parity. And Act 127 was the latest attempt. Here in Burlington, we've been handling additional costs for many years as a refugee resettlement site. And while we wholeheartedly welcome our golden majority population, they come with federal funding is really to get them here, to get them in place. The local site will get volunteers to help with the settlement. And the schools and the social net are left to it out, funded through it's very costly. Even early on, I was an employee of the school back when the small event to early population showed up, and we ended up having to create a classroom in every school, with dedicated teachers, etc., for that population, which is overwhelmed us. And there were costs of that. The director of education at that point walked through, saw what we were doing, nodded sympathetically. So we've settled that cost with additional. That group has probably the lowest student staff ratio, and we also fund liaison. That's all I would. So that's where we. So now, with that in mind, I'll come back to my show. So what we have control locally is fixed costs and obligation. But these are some of the costs that we are having to handle. Pretty much across the board, both the wages and the other costs are 5% or more due to inflation or the contracts. Even the healthcare rate increases at 18% again, on top of, I think, 12 last year. So it's either been high single digits or low double digits forever. And no hidden size. Actually, this one may be the highest. I think this may be the last big COVID hangover. I'm hoping. But we also have a lot of rental costs. First two lines of that space are about displaced programs from the high school. Either the high school itself, renting it $1.5 million a year for the Masons building. The tech center is spread out over multiple sites. Most of them out by the airport or downtown behind the CBS. That whole two-story structure is ours. So those are costs. And then we're also renovating part of the Bishop Booth Center for the On Top and Horizons alternative programs, or both high school programs. And then next year, we're doing a pretty major heating and ventilation, refurbishing, geothermal placements, and renovating of the building in 1908. That's the front part of I just don't agree with those that's continuing on that. This, that Wheeler was a good character. Anyway, so, and then the other cost of services, transportation. So go ahead to the next. This is change and wasn't official to the base. I haven't done around switching. 5% cap is gone. Weighted pupil was what I was talking about with the actual cost for students' IEPs, student poverty, English language. Those are all additional costs borne by either border districts or districts in that case with the resettlement side. So I'd be Montpelier and Brattleboro are the two others by that. 5% cap has gone away, but we sort of saw that coming. Couple of the administration was on parallel track to a couple of us on the board who were saying there have to be some internal reductions. We picked up some costs from the funding we got during COVID, additional funding. We kept a couple of those positions, but we also removed 4 full-time equivalent teaching positions that consultants had told us we didn't need to get our student to staff ratio up to its proper level. There were also both redundancies. So what came about from that at that point was a 2% tax rate decrease. We would have to the adjustment to that because of the cap going away. This is actually still a minus 0.5% tax. So we basically leveled out our costs that we had control of. And we let a lot of the things go by. There was a lot of money requested by principals and their guidance groups to add more behavior positions, more mental health supports. We did what we could. The money that goes to each school to decide how they want to do their programming. We increased that some, but we also cut out some more extra staffing proposals. So that's pretty much where we stood. That's 25%.
How did that happen when you had an 18% increase in healthcare and 5% increase in salaries and so forth?
Yeah, and that's
There's one opening, and then you get down to like negative tax rate.
it was very aggressive attempt to hold the line and really say we know we're asking a lot of the taxpayer. We didn't know about this is all happening in December and early January. So based on the numbers we had, we thought we might get another 4%. We knew we would get another 7% take on the bond, 6 to 7. And then we did the appraisal number was out. So it really was, we just have to hold the line and not add these other costs. So part of it is that many of those additional costs, we were already there. So they were reflected last year's budget. But coming forward, losing the COVID money, we just said, okay, we can only do so much. Part of it was, almost all of it was sincere. In my view, part of it, my thought was obvious, that if we're not showing we're on the line, I think we ask to vote against them if we're not doing enough. And there were no guarantees that cap was. Because that.
So the cap makes you more vulnerable to higher costs.
It would have
taken the cap away. I mean,
yes, very much. And that's what a lot of the districts are going to have to go through because they did. It's hard to call it padding. There are limited sources of money out there. You're going to find this also that what are you tapping to try to offset your increases? And there's very little. And I think Carter told us what 55 to 60% of roads and property is not profit. or non-taxable, including the Friends of the Country Club. That would be
Yeah.
it's a walking path, so fortunately.
Why doesn't it change that?
I'm sure, we'll see how that goes. You'll see how that goes. I'm sure it's gonna come up. So, yeah, we're just very conscious of what it's gonna cost. And then we are, because the 5% cap was a last minute compromise for Stowe's and the other wealthier towns that were getting, they knew they're gonna suffer a little without weighted people. But we're there really, and that's what's being missed in a lot of articles. Stowe hasn't done the reappraisals in 14 years. So they're looking at like a 66% common level of appraisal. Want to that two more slides.
So for the numbers of students, you had to cut out those teachers, I mean.
Well, they will have opportunity to move within the district. People move on, people retire. So they have a licensure, they have their students on the position. And then myself, so yeah, it's not seamless, but it's good. And I know one person in high school. Great teachers. So this is the boogeyman. I skipped through the bond because common knowledge. So state adjusts local tax appraisal based on current sales to create a uniform tax burden across taxes from their website. So we're only 2 years out from our appraisal. And so what happens is the state looks across the state and they track residential real estate sales. And then they compare that number to the appraisal. And based on that, they find what that percentage difference is across the board. And that becomes the common level of appraisal. So in our case, we were at 94 last year, 95.3 last year. And they dropped us another step, almost 8 points this year. And that's what we weren't expecting. We were thinking 3, and that would have been not so bad. So one more step. So now we're down to 87.46. And like I said, Stowe is at 68. They looked at a reappraisal 2 years ago. At least this is what the article I read reflected, and the political cost was too. It was bad here, there it's going to be amazingly bad. And they just said, even though you're supposed to, towns are expected to do reappraisal every 2 years. They said, we'll take the cost of being counted from the state, but the political cost of reappraisal. I think it's convenient. Yeah, it's an interesting mentality, but they don't say it. Their board chair and their superintendent have raked Act 127 just back and forth, and every committee said as the culprit, they're culprits to see them because they're looking at it now.
Well, if they had a reappraisal, say for 15 or 20 years.
At least 12.
Okay.
That I can tell.
So I mean, if our was dropped that much, I mean, some of there should be like about 45 instead of 65.
Yeah. I don't quite know for sure. That may have been 2023 number, not 2040. Mm-hmm. They posted those numbers and then they seem to can't be clear. So I can't find it. It's not, it could be the revised. And that would have left us with the 5% cap at right at 14% tax rate. We're looking at a 1.5% tax rate losing the cap. So that's how close we got. I think the administration did their job trying to hold things down, but 15.4% tax rate is still. Good news is it's sort of a 1-year bump. The bond servicing costs next year will not be as high. Federal money will have come into place to pay off some of the buildings out the airport that we've taken over for the tech center. There's this amazing aviation program out there. They have like 12 different planes and helicopters, and they're taking them apart, putting them back together, getting certifications. I forget how many they get. If they do the 3-year program, it's something like 12 or 13 airframe certifications. They walked up the data, make these, get these 89,000. That's right. Yeah, that's crazy. We'll probably move to auto. Excellent. So with that, one more. So these are things really I tried to do kind of a reminder of all the things that we lost, like the ESSER funds, that's the COVID funds, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds. That's left there. CLA at that point, almost 8% adjustment. So all those, we did our this this. And to be honest, this taxation was going to happen some. It's just the way property taxes are designed. Schools got the towns. Part of that is, property doesn't go anywhere. People can move. So can't really base it on income tax. The city and state did most of the non-homestead taxation, so business property, businesses, corporations. So we're left with and the balance and next so they don't. So these numbers again are a little bit off. Instead of for $370,000 homestead, it's more like $820 now. And additional taxes and income taxes more like $170. You're making $50,000. So it's painful. Yeah. There are some solutions for taxpayers through homestead relief. I posted it to the progressives to do workshops to really help these populations maximize benefit tax-wise for these extra costs. But there are limits to what is out. So we ask that you ask for your vote. And
What's the income tax payer?
well, if you're not a residential owner paying those taxes, you will be paying it through your. There's a line in the process where you have to. Are you a homeowner? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know. Otherwise, it's through your taxes.
Some people that pay rent.
The rest will be through the rent. The rent will pick up the bulk of it. Because there's a huge difference between that income payment, which many of our renters will not have because they're not residents.
I wasn't aware that there was any income tax that was devoted to school tax.
Yeah, I can chase that down and let you know the particulars of that. This was a figure they gave, one of the things that they draw from what the district promotional materials.
I thought maybe it had some income sensitivity with paid less if you had income sensitivity.
And that, you're probably right. My wonder would be equating that to your rent costs. Not sure how that. So that's a form of it. I'll chase down the vote. We are going to vote. We could have postponed, but it's a domino effect. You have to give teachers notice in April if they're not going to be rehired. And the vote was 15 letters we got out that week. So I think we're looking at ways to offset that percent half. We did get 2.4 million back. Our audit has been finalized for fiscal year 23, which has been almost 2 years ago now. And now that money is free as a one-time usage. That would probably use for that offset that percent and half difference. But again, fortunately, we hit the board early when we prepared for this. We're in probably some of the best shape in schools out there, other than still asking for.
I mean, we should be benefiting from the people waiting
Yes,
change.
this is all brought into that, oh, I should have said that, or that's how we kept it below the percent.
Is that why the other people are all?
Oh, yes, we're getting almost
Now they're not
double,
getting that.
we're almost getting double the money of the student stipend of all the others, of the non-weighted people.
Right. I mean, we suffered without that meeting for so many years.
And we keep reminding them.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what's gonna happen on the state level now. The only new funding that's out there is the sports. The sports thing. And maybe they allocate some of that to us. Back when the lottery happened, that was front and center. The percentage of profits in the lottery go to education. It does. Kind of have to dig where that happens. It goes directly to the education. It's not small amounts, not what you would hope for. So the sports betting is probably the only thing you could earmark. Our board president was telling me after we did the town meeting show that Massachusetts dedicates a 1% tax just to school construction. So that's how they chose it. And our legislature, 90s, I think, as well, suspended school construction money, even though it's like 35% of the cost shouldered by the state. They saw it. We, 6 million conservative estimate. How much money it would take to bring all of our students up. It happens. Be interesting discussions of what we do. That's a little crystal ball as well. So any thoughts, questions that you can get in while I was yapping?
No, thank you for your presentation.
I had a point about the rent to the high school. So
Yes.
that's a market rate rent or a good deal.
It was the only game in town, so Don
You
is
should have donated that. I mean, you
Oh.
must be able to get anything for it otherwise.
Well, yes,
Sitting there.
but yes, sure, but that's not who he is. He wants to, yeah. We're looking at another 300,000 something. So we negotiated that rate through when we thought the school would be finished. It's moved to another, it was supposed to be next fall, not this fall, so a year and a half from now. Now it's going to be the start of the school year. So he wants more.
We
Yeah,
have what rate?
I did a Google search and I could rent commercial space, down at Lake Street, the waterfront for like half of what, paying now.
Oh, yeah, it's all
My
out.
understanding is that Dick Barrington and the local partners all like talking down from what he wanted to get anyway.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, he knew he had us, from the get-go. I'm not sure how the match was made between, but I'm just. You're not fighting anything, are you? So there's nothing in the building. Part of me wanted to keep the building and use that alternative space for kind of an alternative high school, students who want to go do it all online or build your own path to graduation, but not at those places. We were vouchers. The buildings.
Any of that? Yeah, no. So the the school population has remained steady.
That's one of my concerns, and we'll be, looking at that.
It's dropped.
It does, it's dropped. I left the district in 2011. It's decreased by 15%. Across the board.
But someone told me that the population of Burlington has also remained constant.
Yeah,
Constant.
yes, it's the childbearing. The children just aren't.
Right.
They
But
they
so-
have, families can afford.
How come with all the new development, you guys might know, and the added housing, if we aren't gaining more people, why aren't we in better shape with housing? Because somebody told me that we are, we have stayed level. Well, this person was saying it because we have added 72 positions in the city government in the last 5 years. So, and his point was, why has the city government expenses grown if our population is? And I don't know the answer.
Well, and that's a pretty common question for schools, part of it. We in Vermont. It's off the top of my head, so I will not be able to quote anything other than my personal experience. What is documented is mental health needs have risen, and the need to staff that, or those students will not be able to participate in school. They're guaranteed a free, accessible education by federal law. And they could be those, you get your needs met however you get your needs met. They can often be pretty disruptive, sometimes even traumatic for classmates. So, schools need to provide that support. We also have a lot of really small schools in Vermont. Many have closed, but the state offsets the cost to those towns to keep those small schools open, because the state knows it's the center of your town. That the church and the post office, and maybe the junk store. If the school goes. So those are some of the things. As far as staffing, as far as we've picked up a lot of administrative staff aside of that. I'm still querying about that. Superintendent Flanagan says our percentage of staff, the full of our administrative state staff as part of our lead staff is about 3 to 4%, which is kind of the local average. And that's all, that's what we will have to cut next year, or maybe if it's slow programs. We do not have a plan. Because we just don't want to put that out there, that there are options, because the options are cutting, teaching, and support staff. And that's pretty awful.
And I didn't mean 72
Oh, no, no, no.
schools.
Uh,
Yeah,
you
this
just-
person meant 72 and.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So those studies have been done at UVM, and the number of vice presidents from like 6 or 7 in the 80s to 30 something now. So yes, it's administrative load is like, just everywhere. Schools are not, schools and cities are not. So we'll see. It will be interesting. I don't know. What and we can have. So it'll be, we're hoping people will support us.
I think it's fast, but there's a piece in Digger today about saying it's okay to vote against the school budget. It's so gross.
Yeah, well, one of the, we do have one competitive award, and during the discussion, that person had with this incumbent, he said, not both, not transparent. So the signal's out there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your invitation. Catch you for next time. Yes.
With that, any comments, further comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Seconded, and,